You are now tuned in to Vibin in the D with Lele, the podcast dedicated to the creatives of Detroit. Now let's get into this vibe session. What's up, Detroit? What's up? Hey, Hailey.
Hello.
What's going on? Welcome to Vibin in the D.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I've been voting for you with Channel 4, so I'm excited to have an in-studio experience.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It was so crazy how that even happened. A friend of mine submitted that and they accepted the nomination. And I'm like, what? Because, my podcast is a little baby podcast. Nobody really knows a lot about it. So I'm really excited. So I don't know what's going to happen, but people, been voting. So, hey, let's do this. But this is our segment called Comedy is Life. And I wanted to have you on here because you are one of the comedians locally that I really like. I love your comedy. I first saw you in September of last year. And that was at Trixie's Bar.
Yep.
It was a T Barb and Friends show. And that was the first time it was actually the second time I saw T Barb. But that was the first time I saw you, and you were cracking me up. And I'm like, she is so funny. She is so cool. I was digging the red hair. I'm like, oh, okay. And then we connected or whatever. And, you've invited me to be a part of, the Gala comedy that you put on. And I thought that was so freaking awesome. I enjoyed myself so much there. And I'm like, well, I got to have her on the show because she's just super freaking funny.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I remember that show because I was wearing a wig, and I don't wear wigs very often.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I've just sort of embraced a little bit of it. I've always tried to be. So my sister came out when she was 12 years old, and we lived on the east side. And so my mom didn't really know what to do. She was I knew Julie was gay. Both of my parents, we knew she was gay, but we just didn't know how to help her because they're not queer. And we lived on the east side, on the suburban side. So anyway, long story short, I grew up, I shouldn't say I grew up. From 14 until 17, I spent a lot of times at Affirmations in Ferndale. And
okay.
Yeah, it was really, on Friday and Saturday nights, they would have youth hang out, and kids could come hang out, and people would come in and they would have wigs and stuff like that. And I would always be like, oh, that's so amazing. So I have just recently been you know what, Hailey, your hair is short. You lack discipline to grow your hair out. Wear a wig, and it's okay.
Right.
But I think that was one of the first shows I'd done where it was warm outside, and I forgot how hot it is to wear a wig.
Woo.
So that entire show, I just kept thinking, please don't sweat through your deodorant. Please don't sweat through your deodorant.
Wow. I didn't even know it was a wig. So I don't look. I'm so serious. I don't look at people and that's. For the most part, I don't that's a wig on, because a lot of times, if you know what you're doing, right, it doesn't look like a wig. So when I saw your hair short, I'm like, oh, you went and cut off your hair. Okay.
And the thing too, when I bought that wig, the woman who was so I was I want to buy a wig. I just want to have a nice quality wig. And the lady was okay. And so I was do you want to look at blonde? And I was maybe I'll get a pink one. I was let's get something exciting. And the woman looked at me and she's no, you just have red hair. You're just going to have red hair. And I was okay. And so I love that wig. I wear it a lot in the winter. I love wigs because they're a coat. You're just warm. I don't know. I love them. But I digress to say, so I invited you to be a part of the second annual Galentine's Comedy Gala. And the comedy galas are, so I don't produce a lot of shows. I used to host some open mics, and I've produced shows in the past, but about 2 years ago, I kind of got into doing fundraising. Because I think people are very multifaceted, and I'm hyper multifaceted. I'm a hyper Gemini. I'm like, oh, is there 17 things to do? Why not do 24? Like, let's. I care about a lot of causes, and what I started to do was so I am a huge goal setter. I love goals. And so every year, like right around the new year, I set up a like my goals for the year ahead. And like comedy has always had certain goals. Like I was like, I want to get to 20 minutes, or I want to do more this, that, and the other thing. And like sometimes I reach those goals, sometimes I don't. And 2 years ago, the goal that I set was I want to do a fundraiser every quarter that's a comedy show.
Okay.
And so I did the Galentine's Comedy Gala the first time 2 years ago, and then I did a couple of different ones. I don't remember. Oh, in the Pride Comedy Gala. So the two big ones that I do that are like staples are the Galentine's Comedy Gala, which happens on February 13th, and then the Pride Comedy Gala. I'm very lucky, for those of you who are in Metro Detroit, the Ringwald Theater in Ferndale has partnered with me, and it's a part of their Gay for Detroit. I just love the shows a lot because I think that in Metro Detroit, there is, in comedy in general, there is a lack of representation of women of color, queer people, and women, just to round that out. And I really love that the two shows that I do the most often represent like the queens and the queers, and that's so important to me. And this year's Pride Comedy Gala was a huge success. Just awesome success. And you were there, and you were fantastic, and like it was just such a great night. We raised almost $1,800.
Well, you mean the Galentines, because the Pride one was canceled because of COVID, right?
Right, but we are rescheduling. So I'm very excited. The Ringwald, we haven't set an exact date, but fingers crossed things go well. We're looking at sometime in September or October. We don't have a firm date, but the Pride Comedy Gala will be coming. Details on that will be coming soon. I think we're all just kind of waiting to see how things shake out. But yeah, I'm feeling very optimistic that it will be a-okay.
Yeah, at the Galentines, before we all went up, you had me cracking up laughing because you kept messing with the guy Steve.
So this is the stage a little bit. Valentine Distillery in Ferndale graciously donated their like entertainment space, which was brand new for their facility. It's huge and it's beautiful, and it's like really cool. And we had sold like 20 tickets up front. And it's a lot of women. Like it's actually so cool to have a show that is all women and then like majority female audience, because it's a different energy, it's a different vibe, it's a different experience, and for me it is just so positive. Oh my god, so I'm there, and I always wear I like to wear formal wear when I perform comedy, so I'm wearing like somewhat a ball gown, and I'm like selling tickets, and I'm like overwhelmed because way more than 20 people are showing up, and like it's just going so well, and things are so good. And in walks this guy who is like, I don't have a type, but he was my fucking type. Oh, okay, did I swear on here? I should have asked that before.
Oh no, you're good. Do what you like.
So he's like, he's gorgeous, and he has beautiful hair, and like he's in a suit. And there's just something about men who know how to dress in public that I'm like, oh my god, just like, oh my god. And he's so good looking, and his name is Steve. And I was like, I am 80% sure that you are the only straight single guy here. Because there were a couple of heterosexual men there who were like there with their wives.
Right.
Jermaine was there with her boyfriend, which was super cute. But Steve was like there with a couple of my friends from another podcast from the area, the Homance Chronicles. They're amazing. And so I learned his name, and I was just like, Steve is going to fall in love with me, or I'm going to die trying. And spoiler alert, I died trying. So like,
poor Steve.
Poor Steve. Well, the thing is I'm like, remember how I was like 60% sure, or like 80% sure he was straight?
Yeah.
Wrong.
You know what? As the night went on, and I don't have what they call gaydar at all. Okay, somebody could be standing up in my face, twirling and everything, and I'll still say they're straight until proven gay. So through the night, and as you would mention his name, and everybody else would be like, "Oh yeah, Steve," and it was so freaking hilarious. But at like toward the middle of the night, I'm like, he is not into this.
No.
He ain't into her or hers.
And so like after the show, I came up to him, and it's a bit that I like to do on stage a lot. And I don't believe in sexual harassment because I think it's wrong. Right. But I do like to flirt with someone from the audience. Like, it is one of my favorite things to do. I just don't make fun of people. I think bullying is really rude, and cruel. But like, I will flirt the shit out of someone, and then after the show, I always make a point like, "Hey, just kidding." But if you're like serious, maybe I'm not. And what's funny is a couple of times guys have been like, "Oh, I'm into this," and we like have a drink, and they'll say like the kiss of death is they'll be like, "You're intimidating," and I'm always like, "Ooh, this isn't gonna go anywhere," because I want to. This is like a gift I want to give to your audience. Establish a safe skincare routine, and like be aware that if anyone ever calls you intimidating. Intimidation is a choice. If someone chooses to be intimidated by you, that is not your responsibility to become smaller or to be more comfortable for them. That is a choice they're making. And when I say that, I don't mean if you square up to someone, you're like, "Yo, what's good?" You're actively being intimidating. But if you're saying like, "Wow, your personality is really intimidating," it's sort of equivalent to being like, "You're kind of a bitch." Like if you're that person at work, and it's like, am I a bitch, or am I just really assertive and not afraid to say what I want?
Right.
So like what I found is that there have been men who have described me as intimidating in my life. And what I've come to recognize is that it's not that I'm intimidating. It's really that they are intimidated. So that's my gift, and for you.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
And so when Steve, I went up to Steve after the show, and I was like, "Hey, just so you know, like, I'm not. I was not kidding. I'm dead ass serious." And he like looked at me in that way that I immediately know. I was like, "Oh no, oh, I know what this is," and I was like, "But I respect the boundary." Thank you. So now.
Oh man, that was freaking hilarious. That whole night, that was, and everybody that came on was so funny. It was, and I love going to stuff like that because you get to meet different people. But as far as your style of comedy, what would you describe your style of comedy?
So I describe my comedy styling as storytelling. I'm not somebody who writes like one little joke. I tend to have a story, and then inside of that story, there's a bunch of little jokes. So like, one of the stories that I tell very frequently, this is based on a true occurrence. So this really happened.
Okay.
So first of all, can we all acknowledge that working out is very hard, right? Like,
oh my God.
And part of what's really hard about working out is like getting and maintaining momentum. Like that 20 minutes before when you're like, I'm going to go to the gym, and you're like brushing your teeth and getting your clothes on, there's that danger zone of like, well, what if I just watch this next episode and I'll go after the episode? Or what if I just start the laundry, where you don't end up going to the gym? But then also when you go to the gym and you go full, right? Like, or you go to the gym and you're like in your gig and you're like on your stairs, and then you're hitting your machines, and then you're doing your like interval training, and then you get on the treadmill. Like when you're in it, it's like magic. But then if you see someone that you like used to work with, and you have that 5-minute like, oh my God, hi, how are you? Like, what's good? Are you still seeing whoever? Like that can mess you up. So generally speaking, I think that like when you're working out, most people disrespect like you're working out and they're not going to interrupt you, right? Because working out is hard. So a while ago, I was living in Ferndale, and I started running outside. And it was really hard for me to start doing that because I had been informed in 4th grade that I was so heavy that I would break the concrete when I went running. I just didn't want to be financially responsible for that. But I did it one day. I was going for a walk. Oh, this is true. And this is not something I usually say on stage. I was going for a walk and I saw a car that I thought was a guy that I had once dated. And I was like, I'm not going to let him think I'm just walking. I want him to think I'm a jogger. And I started jogging. And I like just kept going. I was like, I really like this. Like, fuck that guy, but I really like this. So anyway, so I have this routine. Every morning I wake up at 5:50, and I have from 5:50 to 6 a.m. To get dressed, brush my teeth, get my stuff together, get my shoes on, and get out the door, because I use the power of my imagination to help motivate me. And my imagination pretends that there are velociraptors in the kitchen. And I ask for that. So I'm out and I'm on my jog and I'm like in it. And like, I just want to emphasize, like, I'm kind of casual tonight, but I'm like a very good looking person. I'm like,
you look great.
Thank you. But like when I start working out, I sweat a lot. I've got a patch between my eyebrows that turns pink like I'm the goddamn last unicorn. My clothes are just like stupid and like sweaty. And so I don't look hot. I just look like I'm working out. And so I wear a sports bra and it takes me from Vavoom to like Baloo from Jungle Book, right? So I'm jogging, and out of my peripheral vision, I'm about a quarter mile from my house, and out of my peripheral vision, I see a guy in a truck, and he's like waving his arms at me. And I'm thinking, we established this already, right? Working out is very hard. And you would never interrupt someone unless something very important was happening. Like, let's say the velociraptors are real, and he's trying to save my life.
Right.
So I stop and I take my AirPod out and I look at him and I'm like, yeah. And he screams at me, I want to lick your asshole.
You're lying.
And I want to be honest, the very first thing I thought when he said that to me was, that is so nice. Like, that is so nice. Like, here he is seeing, like, I can just see him in his head, like, oh my God, that sweet angel. Look at her form. Look at her queen. I want to give her a gift.
Oh my God.
I want to lick her asshole. He has no idea how good looking I am, how good my credit is, the fact that I have no debt, how funny, smart, talented, humble, kind I am. He just wants to give me this. And so I look at him and I say, okay. And he just drives away. And I immediately in that moment, he gave me a gift and he helped me define what my weight loss goal is. Do you want me to tell you what my ideal weight is?
I'm scared, but go ahead.
I I always want to be just heavy enough to hinder my own kidnapping. Like I want someone to be driving through a Target, see me in the parking lot, and be like, right height, but I don't want to put my back out. I want to be able, like, someone's trying to take me and just go like this. You done? Because this is hard for you. I know it's hard. So, and so, like, if I'm being really, I am joking, but like, it is kind of scary. It's really scary to be a woman. And like, I jog home, and I was telling my kid sister, nicest girl in the whole world, like, would never say anything about anybody. And I'm like telling her about what was happening, and I make the joke about, like, I always want to stay just heavy enough to hinder my own kidnapping. And my kid sister, without missing a beat, goes, I don't know, Hailey. I saw Silence of the Lambs, and you're like the size of those ladies. So I just don't moisturize a lot. So that is an example.
Oh, Jesus.
It's a real story. I was really jogging. Somebody really came up to me and screamed that at me. I really did say yes because I was scared and I didn't know what else to do. And he really did drive away. I'm very glad that he did that. But like the little jokes, like the little jokes about like the velociraptors and I just want to be heavy enough to hinder my own kidnapping and like things like that. Those are like jokes
inside the joke.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
So when did you start doing comedy?
So I started doing stand-up when I was 14.
Wow.
And so this is one of those like stories that I don't know if they'll exist like this. I think we're gonna have new versions of this story, but I was 14, and when I was younger, I'm an early bird, so I would get up pretty naturally, like around 5 or 6 a.m. So no one else in my family would be up, so I could sometimes go and watch HBO or whatever without anyone knowing. And so I watched the Chris Rock at the Apollo special, which is just there's like a 30-minute fluffer before the actual special where he talks about like growing up and knowing that's something he always wanted to do, and like, he talked about open mics, and it's super cool because it's like I think it's just always awesome to see someone living their dream, like. And you could tell he loved that set and he loved that night. And I loved that. I loved that. And so I was very unliked and unpopular when I was in school. And so, thank you. My big solution was I'm going to join a bowling team to get cool points. Worked great. So I'm at Fountain View Lanes in Macomb, and they had a Charlie Chaplin's, and I saw a poster that was like open mic night Thursdays, and I was like, open mic? I know that word. I know what that is. So I went up to the owner, or I went up to the counter. I was like, can I please speak with the owner? And the owner was like, yep. And I told him, I was like, I'd really like to come and be a part of the open mic, if that's okay. And they were like, no, because I looked 14. You know how
okay.
Some kids, they look older. I looked 14. And he was like, absolutely not. You can't be in the bar. And I was like, please, 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 I'll do anything. And he was like, okay, come wash dishes for 2 hours and you can get 5 minutes of stage time.
Wow.
So I went almost every week, and my mom would drop me off. I think I lied to her for a while that I had like bowling practice or something, and I would go wash dishes, and then I would go up on stage, and it was such a cool thing because I would be first. And they'd be like, all right, everybody, the MC would go, and then they would be like, okay, and now welcome to the stage, Hailey Zureich. And I would get up there, and I'd have the mic, and everyone would go out to have a cigarette.
Come on, are you serious?
Yeah, I mean, it would be like more than 90% of the room. And what was so funny about it is like they could smoke inside, but like I get it. Nobody wants to listen to a 14-year-old girl like talk about her 8th grade teachers. Like, but it taught me like how to get comfortable with a lot of silence and to like, if you really want something, to like do it.
Right.
And regardless. So I did that for a couple years, and then I did other like literal open mics, like jams, like a coffee shop. There was this place called Keikosa in Mount Clemens, and so like somebody would go up and read a poem or play a John Mayer song, and then I'd be like, "Hey everybody, what's the deal with driver's ed? So weird, right, guys?" But then in college, I did some like on-campus shows and stuff like that. But I really started getting into it like serious in my early 20s. I've had a lot of different performance backgrounds, but I really got into stand-up in my 20s.
That's amazing. So you jumped into it or attempted to jump into it quite early.
Yeah.
When it started to take off for you, what really took off?
Well, I wish I could say, because I think like my goals in comedy are different than other people's goals in comedy, and I want to acknowledge that, like, not to make everything about the gym tonight, but like when you go to the gym, there are some people who are there because they're literally, this is their life. This is the thing that they love the most. This is the most important thing to them. There are other people who are like, this is good for my health. This is good for me. There are other people who are like, this is a social thing. I like it because it's social. There's other people who are like, if I don't do this, I'm going to die.
Right.
And so I never wanted to be, and I still don't really have the aspiration to be like the next Leslie Jones or the next Margaret Cho or the next Lily Tomlin. Like I frankly, first of all, you should never want to be the next somebody else. You should want to be the best version of you.
Correct.
But I never wanted to be like a professional touring stand-up comedian. And I never wanted to be, and this is no shade on them. Like, fuck yeah, you're the best. Like, be you.
Right.
But I didn't want to be a touring comedian. I also didn't want to be like a SNL comedian. I just want to tell good stories, and I want to connect with the audience. I would really love to have more headlining opportunities because I do think I connect with audiences, and I do think featuring and headlining women is really important because representation matters.
True.
That being said, so I want to tell good stories. I want comedy to do good, which is why I do the fundraising shows, because I do think that you can do good things with whatever your talents might be. And I just want to meet a bunch of really badass people. So those have sort of always been my goals. Like I said, I've had goals that are like, I want to take my set from 20 minutes to 60 minutes. And I have an hour's worth of content and like that I can go right through. But I haven't had the opportunity to like do that. And like, maybe that's something that will happen. Maybe it's not. But for me, it's about like the creativity process. It's about the connection process. It's about elevating stuff and exploring it.
Awesome. So aside from comedy, you teach yoga. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. So I'm going to say a couple things because this is my second gift to people. Do you remember the show True Blood?
Yes.
So in the show True Blood, do you remember when the vampires would get like hive mind when they would spend way too much time with each other? And it's like at some point they would stop drinking human blood and they'd just be drinking each other's blood, and it like made them really crazy.
Yes.
Crazy maybe is probably not the most kind word. but like it would limit their ability to self-actualize and be healthy, right? That's probably a more kind word, so excuse my last one. I personally think for people, whether it's going to the gym, comedy, yoga, reading, whatever your thing is, because everybody has a thing. Like I'm looking at all the people who are in the comments and I'm like, all of you have a thing. All of you like something or love something or like curious about something.
Right.
And that's awesome. But like, you should also have your turkey, but also have your sides. Have your sweet potato, have your greens, have your corn, have your biscuit. Like, I recognize I fully own that I am a Gemini and I like a lot of things, but it has made me a better performer to explore drawing and yoga and science and paranormal sciences and music and in all these other things, because I don't see anything as separate. I think everything's kind of related. And when you're a yoga teacher, you learn to be way more concise. And I recognize that everybody who's listening to this is probably like, oh, that's very sweet that Hailey's saying that things should be concise considering how much I talk. But like it's a great tool because it's like, oh, I can tighten this up by 30 seconds in my joke telling, in the same way that I can cue Warrior 2 now in 10, 15 seconds when it used to take me like a whole minute. So that's just something that I hope that everyone, like, cultivating a lot of curiosities and practicing a lot of interests, I think only will ultimately help your talents. And I personally love yoga, and I'm teaching virtual classes right now, so I'm not teaching in the studio, which is kind of really fun.
Right.
Yeah, I love it.
So what are some myths about yoga? Because, you know, some people have different like reasons why they're like, oh yeah, I don't want to get into that because of this.
Myth number 1, yoga is for thin white women. Now, I'm going to say a couple things. Yoga is for thin white women. It was not made just for them. It was actually, in its inception, yoga was created. Please do not quote me on the exact timing. I believe it was created in the 15th century in India for juvenile monks. So traditional yoga was actually created for like 12-year-old boys.
Okay.
So it's important in traditional cueing and alignment to keep in mind that they were really directing this at like adolescent boys. The practice, of course, has expanded to include adult men, adult women, and girls. And then as it sort of permeated around the globe, the yoga that we practice in the West is different than what's practiced in the East.
Okay.
In the same way that you could say like jujitsu or any of the martial arts has transformed as it moved west. Same thing with the American gifts of like the hustle and jazzercise. As that's moved east, it's shifted. I digress to say that yoga is not made just for thin white women. All bodies are welcome in yoga. If you go to a place and they make you feel unwelcome, that's not yoga, that's that place.
Okay.
It's kind of like going to a restaurant and you're like, I don't know if I like this. I don't know if I like this dessert. Like, I don't know if I like chocolate lava cake. And you have it at one place and then you have it at another. Like, ooh, it's good here. Like, I just think that that's sort of how yoga can be. I would like to share an emotional story if people are interested.
Yes. And then we have a question from somebody in the audience.
Oh, yeah. I'm super into that. So just my short little story about yoga. So I was bullied a lot as a kid, and it was really, really bad. And gym class was one of the most dangerous experiences for me. And so to imagine, well,
me too.
Yeah. And it's, when you have a fuller body, it's worse. And then when you're also socially ostracized, it's like really scary and bad. So when I got into my 20s and I had started losing weight and feeling more connected with my body, I really wanted to try a group exercise class. And Groupon was in its infancy, and I saw this like $25 for 5 or 10 classes, and I was like, oh man, I can afford the shit out of $25. And so I got my little Target mat and I bought the Groupon, and I went to the yoga studio, and I went in my first class, I was like, why is it so hot in here? But I really liked it. And then the second yoga class, I was there, and while we were moving, I started hearing these voices, and like my inner saboteur started talking to me and was like, nobody wants you here. Everyone's disgusted by you. Like,
what?
Yeah, like that voice, that saboteur. And that saboteur, like the reason why they say that to you, that inner voice, your fear lives inside of you, and fear loves you more than anyone ever could. Fear loves you more than your mother. It loves you so much, it literally doesn't want anything to happen to you. Which also means that nothing would ever happen to you, right? So Fear and I are in yoga together, and she's telling me, everyone's disgusted by you. Nobody wants you here. You do not belong. And I'm like getting so emotional, and tears are like running down my face, because I'm just thinking like, as soon as class is over, I'll leave, and then nothing bad will happen. And this really cool moment happened where like the music started going up, the teacher was talking, and then all of a sudden the song ended, and it's quiet in the room. And I heard this voice inside of me say, the only one here thinking that you don't belong is you.
Wow.
And I immediately started crying so much more. And what I realized is that like I had built this protective barrier between me and things that I wanted based on previous experiences. And it's my job to take Fear when she starts getting scared and say, okay, kitten, I've got us. This is scary. And I'm acknowledging that this is scary and it doesn't feel how we want it to feel. But if you can hold on to me, we're going to get through this. Now, I'm not talking about the fear that's like, oh, you're in a parking structure and that person's been following you and not talking and is now closer. Like, that's real fear, and you need to listen to her because she wants to take your hand and save your life. I'm talking about the fear that's like, well, I don't know if I'd ever be good at comedy. Well, girl, how are you going to know if you don't try? You know?
Right.
So it's important to learn the distinction. It's important to keep yourself safe. But yoga has been a huge catalyst for me to really practice in physical metaphors, things that I want to work out in my emotional, energetic, and like everyday life. Come check out yoga with me. It's fun.
I love that. That was deep.
Thank you. Thank you.
So someone in the audience said, do you do coronavirus comedy or is it too soon?
So that's a hard question because I think that I would feel comfortable telling the story of what I experienced in quarantine. And even I would feel comfortable sort of telling stories about dating in quarantine. I think there's this interesting thing in comedy right now, and there's this interesting thing in the world. There's a lot of people who are saying like PC culture is ruining comedy, and I don't agree with that. I actually think PC culture is elevating comedy. I don't think I'm ready to make a joke about over 100,000 people dying.
Yeah.
I don't think it's funny to make a joke about the people who have been financially devastated by what's going on. I also don't think it's funny to make jokes about this really obscene and disgusting display by the current administration about how they are valuing the lives of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think that that's productive. So me personally, I am not ready to do jokes about coronavirus. I would be happy to tell personal stories, like my personal stories, but
Right.
that's not something that I feel comfortable with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand that. Now, somebody said, "Are you a yoga instructor?" You are, correct?
Yeah. So I am a yoga teacher. I have my 200-hour yoga teacher training completed. So I'm certified.
Hey.
In 2016, it's one of my favorite things that I've ever done for myself. I really think, here's my final gift.
Okay.
So there's this idea that you stop learning at some point. Like you stop gathering information, like because you stop going to school. And I don't think that's true. Now I went through K through 12. I have my bachelor's degree. I have my yoga teaching certificate. I've also gone and gotten my life coaching certificate because I also do that. I do teach online. I'm seeing a question from Angela. But like I have just gotten into what I've referred to as like curiosity practices. So if I'm curious about something, like maybe I won't go get a certificate about it, but I'm definitely going to borrow a book and read or find something on YouTube and just learn about it. I know how to like work on my car now in a very limited capacity from spending some time on YouTube. So I see the value in virtual learning. And to answer your question, someone asked, do I teach online? I don't mean to read too, but I got curious.
Oh no, you good. You good. That's cool.
I do teach online. So at the beginning of the pandemic, or I shouldn't say at the beginning of the pandemic, I should say when Michigan went into quarantine, I was teaching at a studio. And so when quarantine happened, I really got put in a tailspin. And actually, Leah, you were such a good friend to me when that was happening because you were checking in on me like every day. And I am so nervous to like impose on people. And so that was just such a beautiful gift that you gave to me. And I hope you know that like I still appreciate it. And I don't actually think I can say thank you enough for that.
You're welcome.
Because thank you. Because I realized that like teaching yoga, doing comedy, modeling, writing, having a social life, dating, all the things that I'm doing were like my ultimate distractions from anxiety and things that I needed to process.
Mm-hmm.
As I started going through and processing those things, I realized a couple things. I need to be doing some kind of performing or some kind of teaching every week.
Mm-hmm.
So I made the decision to start teaching independently online. So I do teach online. You can go to my website, zhaileycoaching.com. So you can go there. So zhaileycoaching.com. I offer virtual classes 5 days a week. It is all levels, all bodies. It's always a party. You're invited. So come check it out. I think I made a YouTube or like a little TikTok about this on my Z Haley coaching. Because like my favorite part of virtual teaching is like I love that people, it's almost like there's a safety barrier for them. Like when you go to a studio class, and I absolutely see the value in going to a studio class. But when you're practicing virtually, like you mute your microphone and like you're just practicing. So if you fall down, no one else is really looking at you. If you fart, and because like I'm sorry, if you're moving your body,
Yeah.
especially if you're twisting, you're moving voids and gases through your body. So it does happen. And I don't think anyone should be embarrassed of that because it kind of means you're doing it right. But when you're in your own home, the only things that you have to worry about really experiencing that are like your houseplants, your cat, or your dog.
Right. You're right.
And they can't say shit.
Okay.
Because you're paying the bills. So yeah, I try really hard. I want yoga to be accessible. I just want things to be accessible to people. So like if you check it out and it feels like too much money or it feels scary, like let me know and we can talk about it. We can talk about it.
Awesome. So as far as comedy is concerned, if somebody's like interested in getting into comedy, what are a couple of things or one thing or something that you really would feel that you want to share with them to get prepared for that?
Oh, you want another gift? I got you.
Hey, gift us up.
So it's a 3-piece gift. So imagine like 3 little boxes.
Okay.
The first thing you want to do is you want to get a tight 5. So a lot of people, their sort of gateway into comedy, I know it certainly was mine, is like, you are the funniest, most interesting person at a dinner table. And like, you tell stories or you tell jokes and people react to them. What I think you should do is figure out how to get that material in an order that you can say it in 5 minutes straight without interruption and feel confident about it. So like, know what you're going to say. I would even say, as stupid as it might seem, go print out the story of the 3 little pigs. And like, even if you go to your first open mic and you literally just tell the story of the 3 little pigs because you want to get on stage, have a microphone in your hand, and know that you're not going to die while that's happening.
Right.
That is like insurmountably valuable. The second thing that you want to do when you're a little baby comedian is show up and keep showing up. Because, like, here's the thing. You are so magical and special. Everyone is. Everyone is super magical and super special. And you can do comedy for your entire life. You can do comedy for 6 months. I've been to shows where somebody who's done comedy for 6 months and somebody who's been doing comedy for 30 years go up, and the 6-month-old has a fucking bomb ass set, and the 30 years like just, and vice versa. Like I've seen it all.
Yeah.
But like the truth of comedy, the truth of performance is it literally is going and eating dick and saying, that didn't go well. Crying in your car and saying to yourself, I love this so much that I'm willing to do it again. I love this so much. I am willing to be vulnerable, be in the seat of the student, and try something new, different to improve and to connect with people. I will do it again. The last thing that I'll offer is be really careful. I want to give, there's 2 gifts here. One's just for ladies and the other is for everybody. Be really careful about who you take feedback from. So feedback is really valuable, but sometimes the gesture is, a gift is not something you have to accept. So the gifts I've given in our time together, you do not have to accept them. They can just be a thing that happens, right? Like, they can just be a thing that happens. You're like, oh, thank you. It's kind of like when your grandma gives you like a set of towels and you're like, why do I need a set of towels with koalas on it? But like, thank you. I have this now, right? You can take it, but you don't have to use it, basically, is what I'm saying. So if you have a set and someone you really admire comes up to you and is like, that's a really great set, I would do this. Keep in mind, what they would do may not necessarily be what you would do. Does that make sense?
That's some good advice.
Now, to be fair, in this, I want to shout out somebody.
Okay.
So here's the other thing too. With feedback, you have to take your ego out of the equation sometimes to so my good time friend, Kyle Forsythe, is a real sweetheart and darling. And a couple months ago, he posted something on Instagram trying to be funny. And Kyle, I know, has huge ambitions in the comedy scene. And he posted something, and it wasn't kind to women.
Oh, okay.
And here's what I know about Kyle, and I said this to him then, and I would say it to him 100 more times. I can't remember what the meme was, but it was essentially, it was like hopes and dreams, and then 2020, and it was so like the hopes and dreams image was Nicole Brown Simpson, and 2020 OJ, and that was the meme. It was something like that, but not exactly. And Kyle had posted it. And what I know about Kyle is Kyle loves his mom, Kyle loves his girlfriend, and Kyle is incredibly kind to women in the Metro Detroit comedy scene. So when I saw that, I was like, this doesn't make sense. And I thought about it for a while because I was like, I personally believe that feedback should never be personal. Like it shouldn't be like, this hurt my feelings. I want to give feedback that I think is valuable to help elevate you. Because if I'm going to give my precious time to someone to give feedback, I want it to have the highest value and not be about me. It's about helping you.
Right.
So I said that to him. I was like, Kyle, like, this is confusing to me. I don't think this is funny. This is essentially saying that, like, it's funny that OJ killed Nicole. Like, it's fun. Domestic violence is funny. And I don't think you think that. I don't think that you believe this about women. And I don't get this. And he had a second where he was like, we all do this, right? Like, we do something, we put it out there, and we want to, like, protect it because it's like, well, I'm not wrong. I'm not a bad person. And that was not what I was saying. And he took, like, a good 15 minutes to figure it out. And he was like, yo, my bad. And I was like, fuck yeah, Kyle. Not because he did what I said, but it takes real big energy to be like, oh, oops, I hurt somebody. And that was not my intention. And so I have to big up, own my shit, apologize, and be better. And I love telling the story, and I feel kind of bad because I haven't asked Kyle consent to, like, tell the story. But I just want to say that, like, that is the correct behavior. Mm-hmm. I didn't need to say anything else to him. I was just like, fuck yeah, Kyle, you're the king. This is awesome. Thank you for being open. And I really appreciate you. This was confusing for me. And I love that you are open to learning. And I think that's the difference. It's not like taking everyone's critique to make, like, I wouldn't be like, your set should be storytelling sets and be just like mine and Leah, because your style and my style are different.
Right.
In the same way that, like, but if I said, like, hey, I don't know if I would say this, I think it hurts somebody's feeling, like, choosing between your feedback. That's my third thing. Now, the last thing I'll say, and I don't mean this to be like boys versus girls, but I said it earlier that, like, there are 3 groups that aren't really represented in the stand-up community. Mm-hmm. Women of color, women, and queer people. Mm-hmm. And I have witnessed over my time, and I have personally experienced in my time in the comedy scene, this thing that happens, especially to women, where women come to comedy and they meet a guy, or a guy meets them, and they become either, like, the thing that it's like fresh meat. Mm. Everybody wants them. Everyone wants to give them attention. It's a flirting game. I've seen some really, really talented women either A, succumb to like, I dated someone, I'm embarrassed and I'm hurt, and now I'm going to step away from this thing that I love.
Wow.
Which breaks my fucking heart. Or I'm going to persevere and continue to do comedy, but I'm going to be excluded and treated differently, consciously or subconsciously, because I dated so-and-so and we're not together anymore, and we don't want to hurt people's feelings. Or whatever. Or even like I have a crush on a guy, and now all of my bookings and all of my performances are about like opportunities to see this guy. And yo, if you follow me on social media, you're going to learn very, very quickly, I am actively trying to find my person. I am actively trying to where are you? I'm here. Where have you been? Come on. That being said, and I have gone to shows and had crushes on comedians and been like, let's fall in love and be like Jeff and Esther, or like, you know, just totally in love comedians. And it does happen. But women make friends with your allies, your women of color, your women, and your queers. And the LGBTQIA, I don't mean to lump them all into just general queerdom, but like
it goes up to Z now, I think.
Oh, well,
I don't know. I'm just kidding. I
just want to be inclusive because, like,
right.
You know, I'll be really honest. I don't say this a lot because it feels a little embarrassing, but I have to be honest. I don't like to go to open mics a lot because I have a lot of social anxiety, and like it's really overwhelming for me, and it can be really upsetting, and it's hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while I was going, and I realized that like I ended up sitting next to guys, and I was like, we're buddies, and like I'm being buddy. And then some of the guys I was like, I am into cuddling with you. But there were some guys who were like, I'm going to get to fuck Hailey. And I was like, wait, what? No. Like we're friends. So what I have found really valuable is finding women and being like, I'm with you. And I have an unrelenting, you can sit with us policy. I don't give a shit if you bombed. I don't give a shit if you killed. As long as you are not going to sit and say mean things about other people, welcome to my table and with me. And I'm not saying that men aren't allowed, but like, hey sis, I'm here. There's probably 4 of us. I'm here for you. And I say this all the time. It is incredibly hard when there's a woman on stage for me to justify leaving the room. Like, I would rather pee my pants sitting there than be like, Leah's on stage. Nope, I'm going to sit here for however long her set is, and I'm not going to move. Because there are too many times I've seen where a woman goes on stage and men go outside to have a cigarette.
Really?
Yeah. And some of it is like that's sort of the culture, which I think is really weird. Where like comedians, they are in the room when they're on stage, and then they immediately leave and go out to have a cigarette. And to me, I'm like, guys, like we're here for each other.
Right.
Like, anyway, I digress to say that like women find women and be their friends. Find the queens and the queers and make friends with them and have your support system. Absolutely have crushes. Absolutely date. Absolutely do things that make you feel safe and that you're consenting to. You've grown. You pay taxes. I can't tell you what to do, but I want you to know if you're coming into the Metro Detroit comedy scene and you need somebody to go with you, or you have an idea, or you're scared, or whatever, come talk to me. Come talk to Sister Hailey. I'm here for you. I love you. I want you to do well. I want you to take care of yourself. I want you to fucking kill it. I want you to feel powerful. End of rant.
Hailey, your personality, your spirit is amazing, and I really appreciate you. I really enjoyed this, and maybe I have to have you back again and just let you go for it, you know.
Yeah, thanks.
And so let everybody know, unless if there's any questions. I don't see any other questions on here. Somebody said they were laughing so hard the screen on their phone broke.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Sorry. Your phone.
But let people know how they can reach you. I do have a couple of things at the bottom of the screen, your Instagram and your TikTok. And yeah, follow her on Instagram. She's so freaking interesting and funny. And just her, like I said, your spirit is so inviting and you're such a good person. And that was another reason why I wanted to have you on here.
Yeah, that really means a lot. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I'm Z Hailey. I'm also on Twitter at Z Hailey. I'm on TikTok as the Z Hailey because apparently somebody showed up and got that first. But you can check out my website. I will be having a zhailey.com, but my life coaching and my yoga teaching is at zhaileycoaching.com. Feel free to send me a message. I, especially right now, am pretty responsive. And please check out my TikTok. I'm really into it. And I am like 3 people away from getting to 1,400. And
let's get her to 1,400.
My goal by the end of August is to be to 2,000. So let's see if we can do it.
You can do it.
Thank you. And you can too. And I just want to say before we go, Leah, I'm so excited that you do this show. I'm so excited that you're in comedy. And I am just super grateful that I have the honor to be your friend because it really is an honor. And
ditto.
Love you so much.
Love you too. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
All right, hold on just a second. It was so great to have your eyes watching. To advertise here, please send inquiries to info@experience.com. With Lele.
That was fun.